Hope your day has started out nicely. Beautiful day. Might get some washing done today. I don't know how I'm going to hang it out because I'm not too good with pegs one-handed, but we'll see what happens. Should be a bit of fun. Well, what the hell happened last night? Wasn't that an interesting thing? Every stream, 7 of them last night, all cut off at the same time. I assumed it came through StreamYard, which is the platform I use to go to those different channels, but it doesn't appear so. My internet was still going, so it didn't drop out. I'm still trying to fathom how the hell, after 25 minutes, and I think it was 9 seconds, last night's show ended. Just ended. Hopefully, I'll get to the bottom of that today. I've actually sent off a couple of emails to ask what's happened, and I can clearly get onto the VoF, or formerly known as the Num2K channel. Can clearly get onto that through here, so haven't been banned off at least that channel. And I don't know why they would have banned me anyway for anything I was saying last night. I think we got to talking about New York and the huge rally, Madison Square Garden. I think I was telling you that back in the 1930s, late 1930s, there was a supposedly huge rally in there. Now, Madison Square Garden only holds about 20,000 people. It's not the world's biggest stadium, but is very famous. But there was a Nazi meeting held there back in the 1939s. Americans supported whatever Hitler was doing, and the audience outside, there was 100,000 people outside that day protesting about the 20,000 inside. It wasn't even 20,000. And then CNN drew that same analogy to Nazis inside Madison Square Garden against the Trump rally, which, well, we know they're reaching for things. But I think where I was getting to with all that, and I don't know exactly whether or not it fell off before I got to this point or not, I was getting to the big question about martial law and who will instigate it. Now, there is a lot of talk coming out of America, and certainly the mainstream media are starting to lay the narrative now that Kamala is so close to winning. She's very confident. The polls are all saying it's neck and neck, although Trump has fought back in the last few days and, picked up a few more votes. But Kamala Harris is a genuine contender for the presidency in the election next Tuesday. Really? I don't think there is anything remotely like her having a chance of winning, at least not fairly. So that leads us to martial law. If Donald Trump is overwhelmingly elected or approved by, let's just call it the general public vote, and that doesn't mean the people who actually get out and go voting, but the general public of the US would prefer him than Kamala Harris going forward, and all the indications were on polling day that he was having a landslide victory, and at the end of the day they pause counting again like they did in 2020, with Kamala Harris being behind him in the count, and we wake up in the morning and then she's ahead. So the world's going to be a wake-up to that happening again, and I believe there are processes in place to make sure that it can't happen again without being, fully exposed. All right, maybe it doesn't get fully exposed immediately, and Harris and Biden see that there has been a large shift. Maybe Trump does win the election, but there is this transition period, of course, that goes from the election date through to the inauguration. That's a period of a bit over 2 months, and a lot of shit can happen in 2 months. So here's a scenario that could possibly happen that would introduce martial law, but it would be introduced by the Biden-Harris administration. And that scenario is Donald Trump wins in a landslide. However, Israel and Iran start to go hard at it. Now, Israel and Iran need to have this war, let's call it, according to mainstream media. Iran has to strike back after the Israeli attack before the election. Donald Trump's already pledged his support to the Jewish nation, and going forward, there is no reason to suspect he wouldn't support Israel in whatever they would want to do in Iran. And, well, we saw just a few days ago that Israel have plans for Iran. Now, they apparently sent over 144 aircraft, fired over 660 and I want to say it's 666 ballistic missiles, and numerous other weaponry at Iran only a few days ago. Battle damage assessment reports indicate that very, very, very little infrastructure was actually struck. Some of the infrastructure that they're claiming that was struck, and I mean the Israelis are claiming they struck, isn't showing up on satellite imagery as being damaged at all. There is a large, and I mean a very large, blue building in a part of Iran that was claimed to be their main missile production facility. Now, Iran have been aware and fighting the Jews for I don't know how long. They don't build things on top of the ground that can get blown up like that. Their missile production facilities are deep underground. Deep underground. Now, I think that the Americans tried to send the Iranians a message when they bombed the Houthi encampment in Yemen recently. On that particular mission, they used deep penetrating bunker buster bombs to get to the Houthis' headquarters buried deep underground. Now, you might have heard of the Moab, the mother of all bombs. That weighs about 20,000 pounds, they call it. It's an air-burst weapon that is very, very good in mountainous areas for cleaning out tunnels using fire. A lot of fire, a lot of heat. So the bombs that we used in Yemen, and if America can be dragged into this war against Iran through Israel, the bombs that America will supply are those same very large bunker-busting bombs. Not the Moab, it's the MOAF or something they call it, and it is 30,000 pounds of ammunition, and it's a penetrator. That means it will blow up in different stages as it goes through the ground or whatever it's been aimed at. And they are exceptionally effective. This was proved to the Houthis when their entire underground facilities were destroyed. Now, is that the Americans letting Iran know, hey, don't play this game. We can hit your facilities wherever they are. So just wake up. Don't be pushing too many people's buttons, and know that you're not invincible. Well, I think Israel had a go at Iran and failed. I think they thought they had enough firepower and enough weaponry, enough military smarts to make a great attack, a crippling attack, let's call it, against Iran. And it failed. The level of damage that Israel caused Iran is nothing, minuscule, absolutely minuscule. They say they hit Iran's largest oil production field. Well, if that's the case, we can only point to one particular site that might have been hit, or it could be a shadow, or a vehicle, or something that's pulled up beside one of those big storage containers, those big brown storage containers containers that you see in oil fields and all that sort of thing. But there's only one of them that's been hit, and even then, it doesn't look like it's actually been hit. So it's quite weird. Israel claiming they decimated the Iranian defences, I would say exactly the opposite is true. I would say Iran decimated the attack coming from Israel. Iran have been highly technically advanced for many years. There is a radar missile system called an S-300. It's sort of based loosely on a Russian style of air defense system. Iran have been making their own S-300 missile defense systems, and they've been able to make one entire battery a day for years. Years. That makes them capable of firing thousands of, and I mean thousands, of defensive missiles at incoming targets. And I believe that's exactly what happened. Israel did not create much by way of any damage in Iran at all. The other problem that Israel has is that Israel is this big and Iran is this big. It takes you 2.5 minutes to fly from one end of Israel to the other. It takes you a much greater time having to fly over 1,000 kilometers each direction if you're going to send planes into Iran. So I don't think that the Israeli attack on Iran was very big at all. There is also talk that the Israelis rang the Iranians and said, listen, we're about to attack you. So gave them warning. So what does that mean? If two warring parties are so badly out of love with each other that they're ringing each other and saying, oh, listen, we're about to send a couple of thousand missiles your way. If you've got anything important in these areas, move them. Because that's essentially what happened. Doesn't that seem strange to you? It's almost as strange as the way the price of oil hasn't gone through the roof when there's war in the Middle East. All very, very weird. What isn't very, very weird, the only true thing that you can bank on is Ainsley bullion and the gold price today. Have you had a look? Just before I came on, Black Sheep sent me a text. I was reading it as I was setting this up, actually. Gold apparently now at $4,229. If that's the case, it's gone up $40 overnight, nearly $50 overnight. That's per ounce. Per ounce. It's only going to keep going, folks. Silver, I haven't checked yet this morning, but I would imagine it'll be hovering around the $51, $52 mark. It will go soon too, I reckon. But who knows? I did tell you, at least I think I told you last night, I may not have got to that point when the whole show cut out. There are 5 US banks that have been discovered to lack the precious metal holdings that they require to back up their banking deposits and everything else that their business that they do. This is under the Basel III requirements. There are 5 major US banks that have been short selling silver to try and keep themselves, they short sell it so that they can dump their losses into the silver. Well, what happens when you short sell? Somebody eventually puts a call on what you said you owed or owned. That call has been made, and those 5 banks are 708 million ounces short. What does that mean? Well, they have to go and find 708 million ounces of silver to be able to pay out what they owe, because they've been taking these paper losses, paper wins in silver, but it's all paper. They've never owned the product. We are a bit smarter than that, aren't we? Get into Ainsley Bullion today, go and get some of that product, put it in your hot little hand. I can tell you, you will not be unhappy with it. Even if the projected silver price doesn't go up to match gold, if you buy today, and I haven't seen the price, so let me say it's somewhere between $51 and $52. If you buy today and the price goes up anything like what gold is doing, what if silver was to go up $20 today, $30 today, $50 today? All of a sudden, that $50 investment doubles its value. You tell me a bank where you're going to make that kind of money. Now, it's speculative. This isn't financial advice. I wouldn't suggest you go out and sell the house and plow all your money into this. But if you do have a bit of spare money and you want to put yourself in a position, I was reading something yesterday that said to be truly, to have a life-changing moment through the silver that you own, you only need 100 ounces. Now, I don't have 100 ounces. It sounds like it's a big number to get. But in the big scheme of things, it's not a big number to get. So if you are consistent and you spend a little time buying a coin, buying a bar, whatever, the cheapest thing you can, wrap your hand around, the potential for you to make huge returns on that really does exist. And we're seeing that with gold now. All you need to do is go to ainslybullion.com.au and have a look at their chart sheet, right on the front page. Click on that link, and it will show you the gold price and the silver price and the platinum price, for that matter, historically. You just run your mouse over the line, and it will tell you at any point in the last 20-odd years what the price of gold was at any given time, point in time. Well, we have seen these spikes before, previously, but they are years and years apart. I think the last one was in 2007 or 8, where we saw gold jump like this, and silver did follow. Now, what we're looking for in the silver market is not the Australian dollar price. We're looking at the US price. Silver at the moment, an ounce of silver in the US at the moment is nearly $40. So we're looking for it to get over $50 before we start seeing historical highs in the silver market. So it is coming. There are gradual, not dramatic increases like there seems to be with gold. Why are there dramatic increases in gold and not silver? Well, that's because there are large gold sales going to countries like China and Russia, who are protecting their financial system by reinforcing it with precious metals. India is doing the same. They are buying huge quantities of gold, and when the price of gold gets to a point where they find it less than attractive to buy, they will be buying silver. Russia has already started buying massive amounts of silver. We are not seeing it reflected in the market at all. Why is that? Well, because the market is corrupted. These 5 banks in the US have exposed that corruption. And I believe there is nothing they can do about it. It's not like they can go out and buy 708 million ounces of silver and not affect the market tremendously. They wouldn't have the money to be able to buy that. They don't have that cash on hand. So what happens? Well, those banks close. 5 largest banks in America. Interesting. Very interesting. Will that happen in the lead up to an election? There are so many interesting twists and turns to this. But I believe Iran, Israel, and the US election are intricately linked. Intricately linked. I also believe there is a high chance that the Biden-Harris administration, after the election, will declare martial law because they will have lost so badly. Now, if they do declare martial law, they will do so because of the happenings in Iran and Israel. And then they will join Israel. I don't know that there is actually legal precedent for a caretaker government to get involved in a war, But rest assured, the Biden-Harris administration do not hang their hats on tradition in any way, shape, or form. They will make the rules up as they go along, because they cannot let Donald Trump win, because everything will come down. That's what we hope. That's what we hope. But there is also a whole other side of Trump that we're going to wind up talking about in the not too distant future. And there are a lot of people with deep concerns about his abilities too going forward. So the next little period after the election and through to probably, I would say, the early January or right up until late January when the new president is sworn in, holds potential to be a very tumultuous time in America, a very dangerous time in America. A lot of military on the streets, I suspect, and a lot of bad blood through people on the streets, particularly the I'm going to throw my bat and ball out of my cot Democrats, the Black Lives Matter, the pussy hat wearers. They are going to freak. And we all know that when they freak out, the law doesn't apply to them. So when that happens, look out. And I hope that America's police force is better than ours, or at least better staffed, because at the moment, the levels of understaffing in police in Australia are quite staggering. Overnight, Queensland police have come out and said, we don't have enough officers to answer the phones. From my recollection, police officers don't answer the phones. They are QPS support staff who get to wear a police shirt with a little police badge on it, but they have no actual police powers. They're just there to answer the phone and direct you through to whatever service you require or whatever agency you require. The same for O services. They're not qualified AMBOs or police or anything like that. They're just people like you and I who are, good at answering phones. Well, Queensland Police Service have come out and said, we don't have enough people to answer the phones. We don't have enough coppers on the streets to look after the people on the streets. We are lacking. Victoria Police are saying the same thing. New South Wales Police are saying the same thing. South Australia are just employing any Pommy or Indian who wants to come on board. And I dare say those other states will follow suit very quickly indeed. What do you do? Well, I think you've probably got to take stock. Make sure you are stocked up with your food. And if the shit hits the fan, stay inside, because there will be a whole bunch of loser police officers that probably don't have Australian citizenship, let alone, a passport. And they'll come knocking. We need to be very careful during this time. The Queensland Police in particular need to have a really good look at themselves. I think Victoria Police are the same, but I believe the infection that rages unabated in the top levels of Queensland, probably New South Wales, and definitely Victoria Police Force needs to be cleaned out. It needs to be excised. I've been contacted by a number of people who have relatives who are police. I've been contacted by 2 police officers since my rant last Friday night, telling them what cowards they are. Because they are cowards. Oh, you're being a bit hard, Carl. What can we do? We're not cowards. You get out and do what we do. No, I can't get out and do what you do. I never wanted to get out and do what you do. You're the one who wanted to sign up and serve the public in a police uniform, carrying a badge, and most importantly, a gun. A lot of people get off on that. That's why they join the police force. And interestingly, I had a contact from India who lives here now, an Indian, who contacted me and explained why so many young Indian men are applying for police jobs. It's because of the power spike they get when they get the badge and they get the gun. Because in their culture, that's unheard of. Here, you can get off the boat any day you like, walk in and become a police officer. They've lowered their standards of what they will accept in so many ways if you are an immigrant. But if you are an Aussie, born here, trying to get a job with QPS, you'll go through a different selection process. One that's a little harder. One that's a little deeper. Why? Well, because they're looking to see whether or not you will stay compliant once you get your badge and your gun. They know the Guptas will stay compliant because they love the idea of having a badge and a gun and being able to wield it over us. And I play an interesting little Indian Western Australian police officer who you'll see probably needs to improve his people skills somewhat. So yeah, there's some weird shit happening in the world at the moment. The police officers that are currently serving are cowards. Maybe not all of them, but I've not seen one of them stand up for us yet. I've not seen one of them go to the police union and call them out. I've not seen one of them come to the public to call out what is going on in the QPS, who just recently, surprise, surprise, went through all the complaints that have been levelled against them, all the investigations, and of which there were over 5,000 complaints in various different ways and against various different officers for various different things. 5,000 complaints. All of those were closed off, had a line drawn through them with QPS saying nothing more to investigate here. It's all good, no problems. Yes, okay, some officers might have been a bit heavy-handed, but we've taken them aside, we've had a quiet word. No, we can't tell you what that quiet word is because we've got to protect their rights and their freedoms. But yeah, we've had a quiet word. That won't happen again. Well, bullshit, it won't happen again. They've been employing children, morons, who get off on the physicality of this. They're not about protecting us. They're about being able to beat the shit out of us legally. And Victoria Police Force has been employing people like that for the last 3 years. I suspect Queensland has been as well. So yeah, our police forces, gone to the dogs. All of them. Where does that leave us when it comes to protections of our own? Maybe we'll talk about that tonight. I'll let you go off and do things. It's a bit after 8 o'clock here. So I know people like to go and get their mornings going. There were a few other things I had planned in last night's show that I'm pretty confident we never got to. So one of those will be showing you a Sydney auction site held over the weekend where there were 40 sites in a new suburb put up. People camped out for 3 weeks to make sure that they were in line, first in, first served sort of thing. There were over 100 people who turned up for these 40 sites. And there wasn't one Aussie amongst them. They were all Indian, bar one lot who probably could be first or second generation Aussie, Italian or Greek or Lebanese couple, beautiful family. But they were as close as we got. Every other property went to cashed up Indians who had been here at least a couple of years because they'd missed out before, one couple said. No Aussies, 300 square metre block starting at $700,000. All they've opened is a extended suburb of Mumbai. Now, could it be that this area is just not somewhere that Aussies wanted to live? I don't know. They're not making any more land. We don't get to be too fussy. How many of the people who bought there are actual Australian citizens? I have no problem if you're an Australian citizen, but I'm beginning to have a problem if you're not and you're buying our land. We have to have a problem with that, folks, because our stupid government doesn't. Our government will sell our country off underneath us. In fact, it already has in so many ways. So many ways. We'll talk more about that tonight too, maybe. We've also got some news about the property coming up soon. In fact, one day next week, hope to have Cass on. She'll come on and explain what we're looking for, what we're doing. It should be an exciting prospect and a bit of an opportunity for people who might be doing it a bit hard at the moment. So keep that in mind. That'll be something coming up next week. Tonight's show might also be another one off the phone, depending on what I discover with the systems back home today. We're also having a few people turning up today to meet and have a look at the property. I think there's a couple of folks who are looking at buying in there. So we might have a bit of an audience tonight. We might go out for dinner somewhere and have a little bit of a show there. So I don't know. We'll just see what happens. But if I can leave you with any advice, go and buy some gold and silver. AinsleyBullion.com.au. You'll get that little discount. And that little discount will mean a lot if you buy the right stuff and it keeps going like it's going, because it's just a win-win-win. I don't know of any other bullion dealer in the country who's going to do you a deal right now, especially with the prices like they are. But for Voice of Freedom followers, Ainsley Bullion will look after you, and you can buy online securely, and they will transport it to you. You don't even have to go into the office if you don't want to. But they have offices in Brisbane and Melbourne, and you can have your precious metals delivered to you, in the next day or two, simply by ordering them online. And in the notes section of the online order, that's where you leave my name or Voice of Freedom, and they will apply that little discount. And, you might be able to buy just that little bit more. A 15th is great. So if you can get a 15th and a B stick as well, you're doing twice as well, aren't you? All right, folks. Enjoy your day. Have a great one. News on this thing is I haven't got it in a splint in the shoulder thing at the moment. I had a good sleep. Well, found it very hard to go to sleep last night, but once I found a comfortable place to put it, it works well. I slept like the dead. But I've got to have it all torn off this week. I'll make the phone call today. We'll find out. And who knows, you might be coming with me to the bone doctor on Friday. Won't that be fun for us all? Be able to see a grown man cry. It'll be the doctor, because if he hurts me, I'm going to break his teeth. Have yourself a good day, folks. Stay off the roads. Watch out for those dickheads.